You call it introversion, don't you? You wear the word like a badge, a diagnosis, a shield. A quiet little label you found in a pop psychology pamphlet to slap over the gaping, screaming wound in your soul. You think it explains the silence you crave, the way crowds feel like a swarm of hornets, the preference for a book over a brawl of voices. You believe it is a personality trait, a setting on a dial, a quaint, quiet corner of your being. You are a fool. You are a willing, volunteering fool, polishing the bars of your own cage and calling it a sanctuary. You mistake the tremor of a god rattling your bones for social anxiety. You mistake the vast, roaring abyss of the inner world for a charming preference for staying home. The cost isn't a missed party. The cost isn't a fumbled conversation. You think in such small, pathetic terms. The true cost is the slow, meticulous murder of the archetype you were born to embody. It is a suicide of the spirit, performed nightly in the blue glow of a screen, a quiet ritual of self-erasure. You are not resting, you are suffocating. You are not recharging, you are bleeding out, slowly, into the sterile vacuum of a life you have deliberately made too small for your own soul. You volunteer for this gray anesthetic. You choose the numbness. You mistake the silence of the tomb for peace. And the thing inside you, the ancient, powerful thing that chose your body as its vessel, it withers, it starves, or worse, it curdles, it turns septic. And you wonder why you feel a constant, low-grade dread. You wonder why your life feels like a film watched through a dirty window. You are a king who has abdicated his throne to become a janitor in his own castle. And you have the audacity to call it humility, what I call the archetype, a primordial, non-personal, earth-shaking pattern of psychic energy, a god form breathing through the clay of your biology. You now call a vibe, a preference, a lifestyle choice. You have taken a storm and tried to put it in a teacup. You have taken a forest fire and called it a scented candle. You claim you are an introvert, a deep thinker, a sensitive soul. You curate this image, this persona, with the grim determination of a dying man arranging his pillows. You project an aura of quiet wisdom, of being above the noise. But what if your depth is just a well you are hiding in? What if your sensitivity is not a refined perception, but the raw, exposed nerve of a profound and unfaced cowardice? You claim to seek meaning, yet you flee from the very source of it. You claim to want authenticity, yet you spend your life building a fortress of excuses to avoid the raw, terrifying, authentic encounter with another human soul. You complain about the shallowness of the world from the safety of your self-imposed exile. You are the man starving to death who criticizes the cooking of those who dare to feast. And I hear your pathetic, modern plea, a whine echoing through the digital ether. O Herr Doktor, bezogen auf das Dating der heutigen Zeit, lasse Geschichten aus der Antike weg. Der Mann heute soll was lernen. You want the formula. You want the 7 steps to connection, the 10 tricks to confidence. You want to learn how to manage your introversion in the marketplace of romance. You want to leave the ancient stories behind because they are filled with blood and sacrifice and transformation. They are inconvenient. They demand something of you. You want to learn about dating? You, the modern man? You refuse to learn that the reason you fail is not because you are introverted, but because you are empty. You bring nothing to the table but a well-tended void. You have no stories because you have refused the call to adventure. You have no fire because you have spent your life stamping out every spark of the divine rage, the holy terror, the sacred madness that is your birthright. The archetype of the lover, the warrior, the king, these are not roles you can play after reading a blog post. They are states of being you must earn through trial, through fire, through the descent into your own hell. You want to connect with a woman, a man, another soul? Then for God's sake, become one first. Stop being a ghost wrapped in a preference. Your last breakup? Your most recent professional failure? That crushing wave of loneliness that hit you last Tuesday at 3 a.m.? You believe that was bad luck, a misstep, the universe being unfair. You are wrong. That was not misfortune. That was a communication. That was the archetype you have been starving, the God you have been ignoring, finally smashing the furniture of your life to get your attention. Your collapse was not a sign of weakness, it was a sign of life. It was the universe holding up a shard of a mirror to the rot you have so carefully cultivated. The loneliness you feel is not a symptom of your introversion. It is the wail of the caged seer. The anxiety is not a disorder. It is the terror of the hermit who has been forced to live in a marketplace. The depression is not a chemical imbalance. It is the grief of the alchemist whose sacred laboratory you have turned into a storage closet for your fears. These moments of crisis are the test. They are the crucible. They are the only moments of grace you are likely to get. They are the points where the persona cracks, where the carefully constructed facade shatters, and the raw, untamed energy of the self can finally surge through. And what do? You scramble for glue. You call it a mental health day. You numb it with distractions. You pathologize the cure. You treat the eruption of the volcano as a dermatological condition. You see the god's face in the flames and you call for a fire extinguisher. You refuse the test. And each time you refuse, the prison walls get thicker, the inner silence gets louder, and the God within you gets closer to dying. Or to killing you, its faithless jailer. When I spoke of confronting the shadow, I was not offering you a therapeutic exercise for journaling. I was forging the blade you now refuse to grasp. The shadow is everything in you that is dark, chaotic, and untamed. It is your rage, your envy, your lust, your savagery. And you, in your desperate quest for a clean, well-lit, introverted existence, have tried to amputate it. You cannot. You can only repress it, and the more you push it down, the more it projects itself onto the world. The loud, boisterous people you despise, the extroverts you secretly hold in contempt, they are wearing the face of your own rejected shadow. You hate their freedom because you have shackled your own. You judge their noise because you are terrified of your own silence. Your judgment is not a sign of your superiority, it is a map of your own disowned territory. The survival beer is this: turn around, stop running. The way out is through. You must descend. You must go into the basement of your own psyche where you have locked away the beasts. You must learn their names. You must feed them, not to let them run wild and destroy you, but to integrate them, to harness their raw, thornic power, the rage of the warrior, the cunning of the magician, the primal earthiness of the wild man. They are all in you. They are the archetypes. They are the source of all true vitality, all genuine charisma, all world-shaking power. Your introversion is not a shelter. It is the cave entrance. It is the doorway to the labyrinth. And you have spent your entire life sitting on the welcome mat, complaining about the draft. When I spoke of individuation, I was describing this very journey. The brutal, lifelong, alchemical process of forging a whole self from the warring elements of your own nature. It is not a path to happiness. It is a path to wholeness. And wholeness is a terrible, beautiful, and fearsome thing. It contains everything: the light and the dark, the sacred and the profane, the quiet scholar and the screaming berserker. To be whole is to be a living paradox. You have chosen to be a simple, neat, tidy lie instead. Stop. Put the phone down. Now. Not in a minute, not after this paragraph. Drop it. Let it fall. Close your eyes. Feel the silence. Not the comfortable, curated silence of your room, but the real silence. The one you are always running from. The one you fill with podcasts and music and endless looping thoughts. Feel the empty space behind your eyes. Feel the vast humming void in your chest. Do you feel that? That pressure? That buzzing dread? That is not nothing. That is everything. That is the collective unconscious pressing against the thin membrane of your ego. That is the roaring of the archetypes in their cages. That is the sound of your own soul begging for your attention. What is its name? What does it want? Do not think of an answer. Feel it. What shape does it have? What temperature? What is the terror and what is the ecstasy that lives in that silence? That is the only reality you need to be concerned with. All else is a shadow play. Continue this charade, and the life you are living is not a life at all. It is a dress rehearsal for a death that has already occurred. You will walk through your days as a ghost, a hollow man animated by habit and fear. Your epitaph will be the one I foresaw for all who refuse the call. Here lies a puppet who mistook his strings for a safety harness. He died peacefully in his sleep, having never once been awake. The world does not need another quiet, sensitive, well-behaved man who is good at staying out of the way. The world is burning. It needs men and women who have been to their own hell and back. It needs people who have wrestled with their own demons and earned the right to their own power. It needs you to embody the fearsome, beautiful, world-creating archetype that is your birthright and your sacred duty. Before this screen dims, before you distract yourself with the next dose of digital morphine, I demand one act of rebellion. Go to a mirror, look yourself in the eye, and ask the question that terrifies you most. Not a practical question, a real one. What am I running from? What is the truth I would rather die than face? If I were not a coward, who would I be? Ask it, and do not look away. Stay there until an answer begins to burn in your gut. Not an intellectual answer, a feeling, a terror, a longing. Let it poison your comfortable illusions. Let it shatter your peace. That is your first step out of the quiet little coffin you call your life. That is your first taste of being an archetype. Not weird, awake.